Imagine being the CEO of Apple.
Hmm.
You are sitting there with record-breaking demand for your newest iPhones.
Right. Millions of people just practically begging to give you their money.
Exactly. They are lining up, and yet you have to stand in front of investors and tell them you are about to lose $500 billion in market value.
In a single month, which is just wild.
It is. And why? Because a cloud computing data center on the other side of the country basically bought up all the physical silicon you needed to build your phones.
Yeah, they just bought out the supply chain.
Right. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are looking at a really dense stack of sources today. It's all drawn from a wide-ranging 4 p.m. news brief dated today, Friday, July 31st, 2026.
And there is a lot to get through in this one.
There really is.
Yeah.
And the overarching theme we are exploring today is this, I guess you'd call it a violent, almost unavoidable collision between our digital ambitions and our physical constraints.
Okay, let's unpack this, because we usually think of the global economy, especially tech, as this frictionless cloud, right? Like it's just floating above our physical problems.
Yeah, we think of it as just code and algorithms. It's instantaneous.
Exactly. But looking at these sources, gravity is hitting back hard. We are exploring how physical reality, things like ocean choke points, silicon shortages, and even the actual air we breathe, is completely rewriting the rules for global markets.
The tech giants, too.
Yeah, and honestly, your daily life as a listener.
That frictionless cloud thing is definitely an illusion, and this news brief, it just shatters it completely.
It really does.
Because you realize very quickly, reading through these updates, that the digital world is entirely at the mercy of physical realities. You can have the most advanced artificial intelligence models in the world.
But if you can't physically move a ship through a strait or, cool down a massive server farm or even breathe the air outside your house, all that digital progress just grinds to an absolute halt.
Yeah, it's a stark reminder that literally everything virtual still requires a physical footprint.
Exactly. It all comes back to the physical map.
And this physical traffic jam, it isn't just a metaphor. We see it most clearly in what is probably the most literal physical bottleneck on the planet right now, which is the global shipping lanes in the Middle East.
Yeah, the Strait of Hormuz.
Right. So, according to the briefing, President Trump is convening his cabinet at Camp David regarding the continuing war with Iran. And the explicit goal of that meeting, as stated in the brief, is examining how to reduce gasoline prices before the November midterms.
Which makes sense. The political pressure there is immense.
Immense, yeah. But the actual mechanics of the oil trade are just currently jammed up.
They are. The physical movement of vessels is being actively contested right now, and that is creating a massive ripple effect. The sources note that Iran has blocked 2 vessels from exiting the Strait of Hormuz.
Just flat out blocked them.
Blocked them, and they actually turned back 4 others that were attempting to use the waterway.
Wow.
And when you consider that the Strait of Hormuz normally carries roughly 20% of the world's oil shipments, restricting that flow has immediate cascading global impacts.
Wait, I need you to explain this to me, because looking at the broader board here, it just seems chaotic. The brief details drone attacks launched against American bases in Kuwait and Bahrain, though thankfully no American casualties were reported.
Right.
But meanwhile, the U.S. continues blockading Iranian oil exports, and Saudi Arabia has stepped in to organize this 14-country multinational coalition just to defend shipping in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden.
Yeah, and don't forget, the Houthi forces are still threatening shipping through the Bab el-Mandeb Strait.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if the U.S. is blockading Iranian oil and Iran is blocking global shipping, aren't we just entering this massive geopolitical traffic jam where literally everyone loses? How does anyone untangle this?
Well, it is a massive traffic jam, but what's fundamentally shifting is how that jam is being navigated. We've moved from this open global highway to something resembling a permission-based toll road.
Oh, toll road, okay.
Yeah, the geopolitical test game has turned global shipping into a highly individualized, really high-stakes negotiation. The brief actually mentions that some vessels are still crossing, but only after negotiating individual passage with Tehran.
Huh. It sounds less like a blockade and almost like, I don't know, a mafia shakedown. You can pass, but only if you get the nod from the local gatekeepers.
That is actually a very apt way to look at it. The power has completely shifted from global navies ensuring open waters to local actors dictating terms vessel by vessel.
Wow.
And this is exactly why shipping data and individual vessel permissions are now moving financial markets just as fast as military announcements.
Oh, because the markets aren't just reacting to drone strikes anymore.
Right, they are reacting to the daily log of which specific tankers are actually allowed to move.
And the market reaction is huge. The sources say oil surged, with Brent crude crossing $90 a barrel. And it's positioned for a July gain of 23 to 24%.
Which is a massive jump.
It is.
Nah.
And just to clarify for you listening, when we say Brent crude, we are talking about the global benchmark price for oil purchased from the North Sea. It basically dictates the price of oil worldwide.
Right.
So this isn't just distant foreign policy. This is the direct mechanism driving up the cost of your commute.
Yeah.
This is why you are paying more at the pump and, why energy prices are the absolute focal point of the upcoming elections.
Yeah, it's the literal physical cost of geopolitical friction. And here is the truly concerning part regarding the timeline. Even if diplomacy works, and the brief notes that Oman is trying to preserve discussions over a managed transit system, there is a massive physical lag. The analysts expect that even after an eventual ceasefire, normalizing those oil flows could require 4 to 6 months.
4 to 6 months. Wait, just to get things back to normal after an agreement is signed.
Yeah.
Why does it take half a year?
Because, you can't just flip a switch and instantly reposition thousands of massive oil tankers across the globe.
Oh, right.
These ships are essentially floating cities, and they operate on highly complex, rigidly scheduled logistics. When they get backed up or rerouted around entire continents or just anchored waiting for clearance, it completely breaks the global supply chain schedule.
So untangling that knot just takes months of physical realignment.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is the physical traffic jam in our oceans. But this same dynamic, this idea of too many massive players trying to squeeze through a tiny physical choke point, it's secretly tearing the tech industry apart right now, too.
It really is.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because we tend to treat tech as one big happy bucket, right? Like when tech does well, all of tech does well.
The whole sector moves together.
Usually. But this news brief outlines a tale of two tech giants diverging so wildly, it's almost hard to believe. Amazon shares rose nearly 14% on the exact same day that Apple shares plummeted 9%.
And a 9% drop for a company the size of Apple is historic. The brief points out this is its sharpest decline since March 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, that drop threatens to wipe out nearly $500 billion in market value in a single sweep.
$500 billion.
Yeah.
Erased. Just gone.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Amazon is having an absolute triumph. Amazon Web Services, their cloud computing division, saw revenue jump 37% to $42.2 billion.
Which is staggering, bro.
Right. And they were boosting their 2026 capital spending to $220 billion.
Yeah.
And what's wild is that investors are totally fine with Amazon having a negative $7.6 billion free cash flow right now.
Yeah, they are eating that cost.
Which, for you listening, means Amazon is literally spending billions of dollars more in cash than they're bringing in. And yet investors are just throwing money at them.
Right.
But meanwhile, they're heavily punishing Apple, which is a company that actually has record demand for its iPhones and MacBooks. Apple just had to issue weak growth guidance of 9 to 11% instead of the expected 12.
Yeah, the demand is there, but the supply isn't.
Right. The brief says it is due to severe processor and memory shortages. And I just don't get it. Apple is the king of the supply chain. How is it physically possible that they're being elbowed out by Amazon's cloud division? I mean, aren't they making totally different products?
Well, they are making different consumer-facing products, sure, but they are competing for the exact same foundational resources.
Oh.
The sources specifically state that Apple's supply constraints show how enterprise AI data center demand is competing directly with consumer electronics for advanced components.
Because they both need those high-end chips.
Exactly. The global supply chain for advanced semiconductors is incredibly concentrated. There are only a few manufacturing foundries on Earth capable of printing these specific chips. And for the last decade, Apple practically had its pick of that supply chain.
Right, they threw their weight around.
But now, enterprise AI demand has just become a black hole for silicon.
So if you're one of these specialized manufacturers making advanced memory chips or processors, you have Amazon knocking on your door wanting to buy them by the truckload for massive AI data centers.
Yep.
And then you have Apple wanting them for the new iPhone. And there just physically aren't enough factories in the world to print chips for both of them at the same time.
That's the reality. Apple literally has to wait in line. And Amazon is comfortable operating with that massive negative free cash flow and spending $220 billion because the infrastructure demand from their cloud customers already exists. That future cloud capacity is heavily reserved. They are buying up the physical hardware to support AI at an unprecedented scale, basically no matter the cost.
So it's literally a zero-sum game of musical chairs. Every advanced chip that goes into an Amazon data center is a chip that can't go into a new smartphone.
Which is exactly why the narrative around artificial intelligence has completely shifted. Friday's AI lesson in the news brief is that the boom has moved from this broad hype where, every company that just says the word AI gets a stock bump.
Right, the bubble phase.
Exactly. It's moved from that to a brutal company-by-company test of execution. Investors are distinguishing among AI companies based on actual utilization and revenue now.
In hardware.
Yes. Amazon and Microsoft are showing measurable returns because they are physically securing the hardware. But Apple is hitting a physical wall. Tim Cook is out there actively evaluating alternative component suppliers just to try and keep production lines moving.
That's crazy.
There's even a note in the brief that NVIDIA could regain the title of the world's most valuable company after Apple's decline, purely because they control the architecture of these coveted chips.
Wow. And this bottleneck, it's dragging down the broader hardware market too. The Philadelphia Semiconductor Index dropped 20% in July.
Yeah.
The brief says it's their worst month since the 2008 financial crisis. So for you listening, this explains a lot about your wallet and your portfolio. Strong consumer demand for that next tech gadget literally doesn't matter if companies cannot physically build the products.
Exactly.
It explains why upgrading your tech might get significantly harder and more expensive, and why your tech investments are separating into extreme winners and extreme losers.
It emphasizes that digital demand alone no longer guarantees a company's success or a higher valuation. If you can't secure the physical supply, your digital product is just a theoretical concept.
Yeah. So we're seeing these giants fight over shipping lanes for oil and manufacturing lanes for silicon. But looking further into this brief, the ultimate physical constraint detailed in these sources is happening to our own biology and the environment.
Yeah, this part is heavy.
Let's talk about the biological baseline here, because the numbers coming out of Europe are just catastrophic.
The environmental data in the science and health sections of this brief is deeply concerning. Scientists are reporting that European wildfire emissions reached approximately 18 million metric tons of carbon dioxide during 2026.
18 million metric tons.
Yeah. France just recorded its highest wildfire-related emissions in available monitoring data. We are talking about massive landscape-altering scale. I mean, the land fire west of Bordeaux alone burned approximately 42,000 hectares of pine forest.
I try to imagine what that actually feels like for the people living there, and it's horrifying. It's not just the trees burning, right? It's what happens to the air.
Exactly.
The air quality crisis described here is staggering. Bordeaux recorded PM 2.5 levels over 300 micrograms per cubic meter. The Moji exceeded 400.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Right. And for a bit of context, PM 2.5 refers to ultrafine particulate matter.
Yeah.
It's the microscopic soot and ash that is so small it bypasses your lungs' defenses and gets directly into your bloodstream. Yeah. Normally, anything over a few dozen is considered unhealthy. 400 is essentially breathing in a campfire. I mean, I complain when my neighbor's barbecue blows into my yard for an hour. I cannot fathom a whole city breathing in toxic smoke for weeks on end. That fundamentally changes how you live your day-to-day life.
It forces society to just grind to a halt. And the sources detail the severe long-term health links, too. We aren't just talking about a cough here.
Right.
These prolonged PM 2.5 exposures are linked to immediate respiratory illnesses, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, and strokes. Furthermore, scientists are now actively studying links between this specific type of prolonged smoke exposure and the emergence of several cancers.
And it feeds on itself, doesn't it? Like, the more it burns, the worse it gets for the future.
It is a terrifying climate feedback loop. The sources note that burning forests obviously release massive amounts of stored carbon into the air.
Right.
But critically, they also permanently weaken the region's future ability to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. You lose the carbon sink.
Oh, wow. Because the trees are gone.
Exactly. And because of this compounding damage, wildfire conditions are now estimated to be twice as likely in southwestern France and roughly 20 times more likely in central Spain.
20 times.
Yeah. And we are seeing similar escalation globally. Indonesia is reporting a sharp increase in potential fire zones as El Niño strengthens, which Indonesian forecasters expect to continue into early 2027.
So it's not a fluke. It's a compounding trend. And what's really alarming is that this environmental collapse is happening right alongside a breakdown in basic public health in the U.S.
Yeah, the domestic health numbers are really troubling.
The brief mentions a massive cyclosporiasis outbreak in Michigan, with over 8,100 cases and 98 hospitalizations. Federal investigators are expanding that food tracing inquiry to 4 other states right now.
Right.
And then there's the measles data. The U.S. recorded 2,318 cases. That is a 35-year high. National MMR vaccination coverage has fallen to 92.5%, and 16 states are now below the 90% coverage mark.
Those numbers represent a serious systemic vulnerability. When we look at this data collectively, what we are witnessing is a collapse of what the brief calls preventative infrastructure.
Prevented infrastructure. Okay, that's a great term, but unpack that for me. Are we saying dropping vaccination rates and burning forests are essentially the same problem?
In a structural sense, yes. Dropping vaccination rates strip away herd immunity in a population in the exact same way that burning forests strip away carbon sinks and atmospheric protection from the environment.
Oh, I see.
They are both invisible shields. When you lose that baseline defense, every subsequent shock hits the system that much harder.
It really makes you rethink what infrastructure even means. Because we usually think of infrastructure as bridges, roads, power lines.
Physical concrete stuff.
But if you can't drink the water, or eat the food, or breathe the air in your house, the roads don't really matter. Clean indoor air, effective masks, and reliable food tracing. These are no longer just public health talking points for politicians. For you and your family listening, this is essential personal infrastructure that you need to be actively thinking about for your own home.
Absolutely. The health officials in the report are recommending people stay indoors and use high-quality masks during these severe smoke events. Your physical environment is demanding more active daily management than ever before.
Which brings us to a crucial question for anyone listening today. How does this change what we do for a living? Given all these massive physical bottlenecks, the blockades in our oceans, the chip shortages in our factories, the toxic smoke in our atmosphere, how is the labor market adapting?
It's adapting heavily toward the physical.
Right, because according to the careers section of this 4 p.m. news brief, we are seeing a massive shift. So what does this all mean for you? For the last 20 years, the common advice was to tell kids, learn to code because software was eating the world.
Yeah.
Is that still true?
Well, the pure software play is definitely taking a back seat because the physical world is where the premium is right now. Think about Amazon's $220 billion spending plan for their data centers.
Yeah.
That money isn't just going to software developers writing algorithms. The brief points out that this immense cloud growth is strengthening demand for physical builders. We're talking data center engineers, electricians, and cooling specialists. You need massive teams for construction and physical deployment.
It makes total sense when you put it like that. The software can write itself using AI, sure, but the AI can't physically plug itself into the wall.
Exactly.
The real hero in 2026 isn't the guy writing code in a coffee shop. It's the logistics planner untangling a supply chain, or the master electrician who can wire an AI server farm without completely melting the local power grid.
The physical world is eating back. And it's not just in the tech sector either. Look at the maritime disruption in the Middle East.
Right.
That geopolitical crisis is driving up demand for entirely different skill sets. Shipping analysts, marine insurers, logistics planners, and naval support personnel for these new multinational coalitions. Companies desperately need people who understand physical movement and risk management.
And everyday employers are being forced to adapt to the environmental realities we just talked about too.
Oh, absolutely.
If you run a regular business in these smog-affected areas in Europe, you now have to invest in improving indoor air protection for your staff. You basically become an air quality manager by default.
Yeah, you have to.
Or if you have outdoor workers dealing with extreme heat like in Texas and Oklahoma, where the brief explicitly states dangerous heat continues and warm nights are limiting physical recovery, you have to aggressively adjust hydration plans, work schedules, and rest periods. You have to physically manage the environment just to keep your business running.
The conclusion drawn by the analysts in this brief is incredibly stark. And I think it's the most crucial takeaway for anyone evaluating their career path or business strategy right now.
What's that?
They state that the durable career advantage going forward remains the ability to connect digital demand with physical supply and reliable execution. If you can bridge the gap between a digital order, whether that's an AI prompt or an e-commerce purchase,
Mm.
and the physical reality of actually delivering it in a constrained world, you will be indispensable.
The durable career advantage. I really love that framing, being the bridge between the digital dream and the physical reality.
Exactly.
Well, let's briefly recap the journey we've been on today. We started with ships being blockaded and turned around in the Strait of Hormuz, spiking global oil prices and creating this massive geopolitical toll road.
Right.
Then we look at how enterprise AI data centers are physically consuming the advanced chips meant for consumer tech, basically knocking $500 billion off Apple's market cap because they literally have to wait in line for parts.
It's all connected.
It is. And we zoomed out to see smoke-filled skies over Bordeaux and dropping vaccination rates across the U.S., reminding us that our ultimate physical constraints are our own biology and our environment. The digital world really is entirely at the mercy of physical realities.
It is a sobering realization, honestly, but an essential one for understanding where global markets and daily life are actually heading, rather than where we, wish they were heading.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought drawn from the margins of today's sources.
Oh, what's that?
So, deep in the cultural and trade sections of the brief, there were two small but really significant mentions that we haven't discussed yet.
Okay.
One was that France is enforcing a social media ban for children under 15. This requires massive new infrastructure for strict digital age verification.
Right, digital borders.
Exactly. And the other was about new global tariffs threatening to upend the ultra-low-price global fashion model that built companies like Shein.
Ah, physical borders.
You nailed it. When you put those two things together with everything else we've talked about, it paints a very specific picture. As governments throw up digital borders, like strict age gates on platforms, and physical borders, like massive tariffs on fast fashion, are we witnessing the end of the seamless globalized internet era?
That is a fascinating question.
Right. Will the internet and the global consumer market of 2030 be as restricted, localized, and heavily guarded as the Strait of Hormuz? It's definitely something to think about as you navigate your week. Keep questioning the news, and always look for the physical truths hiding behind the digital headlines. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.